Good evening, and welcome to the Be Extraordinary podcast, the the show that's all about you. We are so very excited to have everyone that's going to be on this show today. We have a lot going on, and one thing we know is that when you're here, the show works perfectly. Last week we were in a different studio. I'm glad to be back in studio here at Bizone Creative. This is a nice spot to be. He does photography, he does websites, he does so many different things, and that we have a space in here is really cool. I love the background that we have, and most importantly, I love seeing all of you. I am Joetta, the host of the show. I'm a four-time Olympian, motivational speaker, author, entrepreneur. But what I like to say is that I'm somebody that wants to inspire all of you to be better, to be the champion of your life. It's not about being an Olympian. That's for a select few, but you can be the champion of your lives. And speaking about being champions, I have my co-host who's a champion. He's a champion firefighter. He fought fires for over 25 years. He's retired now. He does a lot of things for nutrition and mental health. He's a renowned high school coach. And I don't know if any of you know this, but coming up in September, you don't know this about him. 9/11 is coming up, and he was one of the first responders who went over to 9/11. And I know that's something really passionate and dear to your heart that you were part of that sad
Yes.
time in history. So, Tyrone, welcome to the show. Nice to see you again in the studio.
Thank you, Joetta.
Yes, yes, yes. We have a lot to talk about, but we want you to know that this show, when you tune into this show, you tune in to hear conversations from leaders and influencers that will inspire you to reach your fullest potential in all aspects of your life. So this month, the sponsor is the Currnt. The Currnt doesn't have an E in it. So it's Currnt, no E. In the Currnt, they deal with a handcrafted jewelry, unique jewelry for women. I always say that you can buy your own jewelry, but it's nothing like getting a gift from somebody. So if any of you want to buy your jewelry or encourage someone to buy you some jewelry, have them go to the Currnt, that's then Currnt.com to find some amazing, unique jewelry for women. And that's about it on that topic. They've been here since the beginning of July. We have two more shows. This is the third show, and then we have one more show for the month of July. And we always want people to be part of this. And we would tell you how you can become a sponsor, how you can be an advertiser, or how you can be on the show. If you want to do any of these things, you can visit us at the website. You can contact us at JoTyme Fitness at gmail.com, and you can find out how you can become a sponsor, how you can have ads, how we can have us come in to do programs for you, and so much more. So visit the website and also go to JoTyme Fitness at gmail.com.
Wow.
That's a
That's
lot.
a lot. Yes.
I'm going to turn it over to you for a second here so you can do what you do best, give them the rules and all that good stuff.
Okay, we have a awesome guy, one of my dear friends, that's going to come over and talk about his company and all the things that he's done in martial arts world. So before we introduce Mr. Mike Gilliam, I just want to let you know that thank you guys for showing up today. I know you probably had a hard day. Some of y'all, just getting off work, picking up the kids, 5:30, traffic and everything. But if you're listening to your car, on the subway, on the train, or, just sit back and relax and enjoy this segment. Okay, Mike.
We want to talk about Mike. He's Grand Master Mike. He's an alumni of Rutgers University. He's a proud member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. He's the owner of Maximum Athletics. He has 7 degrees of black belts in Taekwondo. 7, not just one, 7 degrees. He's certified and Krav Maga instructor. He does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's a hip hop certified instructor. He's also a national, 2-time national karate champion. He's won 4 World Police Game Championships in various disciplines. And because he won those, that's right, he's a retired police officer in the Plainfield, the police department in New Jersey. And he's also the 2009 American Taekwondo Association World Champion. So the next face that you're going to see on our screen is Grand Master Mike Gilliam. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, we got some rules, Mike, that you know that we have to go over with the audience. So you're going to tell them what they have to do?
Yes. Okay, Mike, you're going to have 3 segments. They're going to last for 20 minutes each segment. Okay, so the first one is going to be hitting the mat. You're just going to come out and tell us how did you get started on, your career and your dojo with hitting the mat. Then we're going to go to the second segment, nutrition and conditioning, because you can't get on that mat and try to become a champion without being in shape. I already know that. And the last one is passing the test and getting that belt. So welcome, Mike, to the Extraordinary podcast.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate you guys allowing me the opportunity to speak to everyone. And I'm just honored to be here.
Well, we go way back, but what we don't know, the audience doesn't know, is how you got started. We're talking about hitting the mat. How did you get started? How did you know that this is going to be something that you would do not only for a year, but for over, how many years have you been in this field?
Well, actually, I started out when I was 12 years old. My first experience with martial arts was like all of us when we were young. If you're around my age, I went to Adams Theater in Newark, New Jersey, and I saw that they showed 3 movies, because you can pay $5 and get to see 3 movies. And Bruce Lee was the headliner, and everybody back then was a Bruce Lee fan. And I saw this guy, chop sueying people and kicking people and using nunchucks, and everybody left the theater thinking that they were a black belt and something. And we were kicking and flipping, and so at that point, I realized that that was something that had my interest and captivated me, because when I was 12 years old at that time, I was a very small individual, and like everyone, you have to deal with bullies in high school. I mean, in elementary school and coming up, even in your neighborhood. So I said, man, I need something to give me an even platform, and martial arts became that thing.
So when you talk about hitting the mat, we talk about martial arts, and this month is summertime fitness. So although it's good for self-defense, I'm sure it's also good for fitness. But when you were younger, you used it for self-defense. But when you're hitting the mat, when did you start going to competitions, and when did you realize that you were good at this?
Right. So when I first started martial arts, I really didn't think I was that good with it, because, you go through the belt system. When you come in, you have to empty your cup. You don't know anything. You have to learn all the different movements, the different forms, the different punches, kicks. And I really wasn't that good at it. Although I was pretty good athletically, I had the athleticism, but I didn't have the knowledge base of the martial arts system. And I just fell so much in love with the training aspect of it. And, once I started sparring in the school, once you get to a certain rank, they allow you to start sparring. And, I realized that my instructor was putting me with people of higher ranks, and I was still able to hold my own. And I was like, wow, when my instructor came to me when I was around 14 years old and said, man, you should enter a competition. And I said, well, I don't know if I have the money for that. He said, no, I'll pay for you to go in to the competition. And I went to the competition. I didn't win. I got 3rd place, but that fueled my fire, to better what I was deficient in, and just make it better. And just, I had such a wonderful time, met new people, developed friendships from the martial arts. And I love it. And I just continue.
So when you were little, and I'm sure people come to your dojo, parents have them come for one reason, but martial arts is a way to also mentally get prepared. So could you speak to that? Did you realize that as a kid that you were working on your mental as well as your physical fitness?
Well, I did after a while. It was one of the first times that I was in front of a lot of Black men that were mentors at that time. And, in the martial arts school, there is, you teach and you train your mind, your body, and your spirit. Right? And the mental part of the training, was teaching you how to focus, how to concentrate, and teaching you to believe in yourself. Because my instructor, you would always say, there's no confidence like self-defense confidence. Knowing that you can say no to a bully, knowing that you can walk away from situations without getting into a confrontation. You know, that gives you confidence.
Yeah.
So the mental aspect of it was very dear and you know, to me, because that was the first time a person was telling me that you can aspire and be anything that you want from martial arts, from training in martial arts. And yes, the physical aspect of the martial arts was tough,
Yeah.
because it kind of weeded out the people who couldn't stick with it,
Mhm.
because you know it was grueling training back in the late 70s and early 80s. That's when martial arts was at its purest form, taught by Grand Masters who had just come over here from Okinawa or Japan, and they were tough trainers.
Yes.
So if you couldn't keep up with it, the physical aspect of it, many people dropped out along the way. But you know, I was always taught that never quitting spirit, because they would always say that quitters never win and winners never quit. So I didn't want to be one of those people who dropped out and then look back and say, man, I wish I would have or could have earned my black belt.
Yes. And Mike, I wanted to know, like boxers, you know, they do a lot of rope training. They do a lot of mileage. Swimmers do a lot of swimming, you know, in their, you know, they're in the pool. Runners, same thing, hurdles and everything. When it comes to martial arts, how is the training, like the exercise before you even touch the mat? Are the exercises as hard as, because a lot of people don't know anything about martial art and they want to know, how do I get in shape? Well, how is the workouts?
Right. The workouts, I would tell anyone who's interested in martial arts is to develop some type of flexibility, because you're going to be kicking, you're going to be lifting your knees up, using your hip mobility is definitely a good part of it. But we kind of train just like boxers. You know, you have to do your road work. So you have to do the running as a part of it, your hills, push-ups, sit-ups, calisthenics. It's a very tough workout, but it's also fun. I mean, because I always tell people, goals you set are goals you get, right? And, you know, a lot of times if you're dealing with some type of ailment like diabetes or, you know, high blood pressure, cholesterol, those type of things, one of the doctor's going to tell you two things. He's going to tell you to change what you're eating, right? That's your nutritional part, and do some type of exercise. So if you incorporate exercise into your program, it's going to help your overall health and wellness and your longevity. Because as we get older, you know, we want to be as flexible as we can. We want to keep our mobility together. You still want to look good and you want to feel good and not deal with aches and pains and ailments.
So I'm going to go back because we're talking about hitting the mat, and we're still in the very early parts of what you are now, Grand Master. But the audience, not everyone does karate or martial arts. So when you're talking about flexibility and fitness and how you guys started, what can you tell them to encourage them to even think about possibly going to a studio? And we talk about yours as well, and not turn that away as a form of exercise.
Right. Well, most martial arts studios have different martial arts, and they're geared towards everyone.
Yes.
So one of the martial arts that I say for people who are looking to improve their mobility, and if they're new to martial arts, there's lighter weight type of martial art entry points like Tai Chi, right? Like yoga. Those type of things are really good for people to incorporate their flexibility. Now, if you want to learn an awesome self-defense and get in shape at the same time, Krav Maga. That's Krav Maga. I don't know if some of you guys may have seen a movie that starred J-Lo. It's a pretty old movie, but it was a movie where her husband was abusing her, and you know, and it was called Enough. That was the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, in that movie, J-Lo was learning Krav Maga, because Krav Maga is one of the fastest ways to bring you up to a level of proficiency where you can defend yourself. With training in Krav Maga for a period of like 3 to 6 months, you'll be pretty good at defending yourself. So if your interest is not to do it over a long period of time, there are self-defense courses that you can take that can, you know, not only increase your level of fitness, but they can also bring you up to a level where you can defend yourself also, if you had to.
So what we're going to do now, Mike, is we're going to see if anyone has any questions or if there's anything in the chat. And while we're doing that, remember, you can raise your hand. If you raise your hand, then we'll be able to see you, and then we can ask Master Mike Gilliam some questions. But Grand Master, you're talking about self-defense, and we're still in the beginning phases now. Do you remember your first competition, the very first competition that you had? Can you reflect?
Oh, yes. Let me tell you something. I tell everybody about my first competition.
Okay.
I was an overachiever. I thought that I was good and I really wasn't. And, I remember when I was younger, this guy asked me, he says, "Hey man, we got this guy who, we can't find anybody to fight him." I was like, "Oh, I'll fight him." And at that point in time, I was a white belt. I didn't even know anything about white, yellow, orange, green belts. And this guy was a brown belt. His next level was black belt. I fought him in a kickboxing match, and man, he whooped me something good. And I had to, I was trying to call timeout in the middle of the fight, and he kept on hitting on me. And I was like, you know what? But I tell everybody, that is the one thing that motivated me to become the person that I am.
Yes.
Because had I won, I would not probably have still been doing martial arts. I would have thought that it was easy. I wouldn't have, pursued it. But getting that butt beating the first time, made me say, "Hey man, if you want to be good at this, it's going to take hard work. It's going to take discipline. It's going to take focus and concentration." And, that just woke me up. I never went out there unprepared again.
Yes.
And that's why you have 7 black belts. Now, I don't know what that guy had that beat you up, but I doubt he has 7 black belts.
Right.
I'm going to show you some pictures. And I want you to tell me quickly what this meant to you in a couple of words. So when you see that picture, what do you think about?
That's my brown belt graduation picture in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably one of the hardest and most pure martial arts that there are, because they don't give belts away in Jiu-Jitsu. It took me 10 years to earn that brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that was going consistently, 4 to 5 times a week.
Wow.
Mike, we just had that discussion when I told Joetta how long it takes to get a belt.
Yeah, he said 10 years.
Yeah.
So what are you doing in that one?
Well, that's me practicing and straining. You see the vein coming out my head right there, leading over. So, the practices in Jiu-Jitsu is mainly a grappling art, and it's about leverage. So it's, really meant and made for the small guy and for women. Because if a man is going to try to assault you or do something to you like a sexual assault, they're going to throw you to the ground. And usually you have to learn how to fight and defend yourself off of your back. And the one thing Jiu-Jitsu teaches is leverage, how to be a master of leverage, because you may have a door that weighs about 250 pounds, but a 1-pound door stopper can stop that 250-pound door from swinging open or closed. So it's not about how big you are, the size you are. It's about, are you positioned correctly and your leverage.
Well, you look like you're getting down. I don't know what you were doing, but I thought that was a competition. You said that's practice.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
This next slide.
Okay, that's a younger version of Mike Gilliam when he had it used to have that flat top fade away. So, and then it all faded away. So I just got the fade away now. I don't have the flat top with it. It turned into a half top, and then I cut it all off, right? So that's me training at one of my first martial arts schools, Above and Beyond Taekwondo. At that point in time, I was probably around a 4th degree in Taekwondo. That's one of the jump front kicks that we did.
Wow. You're
Awesome,
high.
awesome.
Wow, look at that.
Wow. Now that's a throwback picture. That's me. That's when I was a part of the Ninja Turtle system.
Oh, I remember.
And that Ninja Turtle system, that's actually at Villanova University. I was there with Jay. And Jay took that picture of me doing that sidekick.
Wow, that's up there. Well, that's oh wow.
So this picture is me winning the World Police Games in the weapons category. I did the kamas; those are Japanese sickle weapons, and I was performing with that, and that's a double front kick.
Yes. I bet. And you had those sharp weapons. You made sure you kept them away from your body, didn't you?
That's right.
Wow. That was a great segment. Thanks for sharing that. When we look at pictures then and now, do you ever think that you can do any of that stuff now? So I know we're going to go to our next section, which is nutrition and conditioning. But before we do that, did those pictures inspire you this moment to try and do any of that stuff, or have you put that aside? What's this?
No, well, I still train, I still kick, I still do my weapons, I still teach full time, and I still like to get out there and do my forms and maintain my level of flexibility. So I still can do most of that, probably not jumping as high. So I won't be able to get as high as I was, but I still could do those kicks.
And the flexibility that you had when you were younger, it probably has helped you as you've gotten older. I know with me being a dancer and being flexible then, I'm still that way now. And that's real important to be able to have that. If anyone wants to contact Mike to find out what he does and where he is and how you can get involved and how he can help you, please take a screenshot of that. Or you can also go to the chat. We have this information in our chat. You can find out more about his different disciplines and how he can help you, how he can help your kids, and how you can do it together. And that's right there in North Plainfield, New Jersey. But because everything is virtual at times, he can speak to you that way as well on a virtual Zoom forum. So right now we're going to go to my co-host here, Tyrone, and he has his JoTyme Fitness Health Tips. And everyone is really looking forward to hearing what your health tips are. This has become a big part of the show. So here we go, JoTyme Health Tips.
So this next health tip is really important. It's pH, the balanced pH. And what is pH? Proper pH levels vary throughout your body. Saliva ranges between 6.2 and 7.6, while urine is normally more acid, especially in the morning during the metabolic process of preparing for elimination. Okay, health hint, using pH strips, which I have here. I just ordered these pH strips. If anybody could see it, you could take a screenshot real quick for the pH strips. I ordered the pH strips, and the back shows you the level of acid or alkaline. So I took a strip and I used it just now, and I got to 6.5. So 6.5, remember I told you 6.2 to 6.8, 7.8 is good. So I'm at 6.5. The same thing with Joetta, she was at 6.5. You want to stay right around the balance area, right in the middle, because the foods that we're going to go back to the slide, the foods that we eat are acid foods or alkaline foods. So right now, with our food levels, what you want to do is try to eat to bring up your alkaline level. People can go to the store and get alkaline water. They have alkaline water that'll help you rehydrate and get your pH levels up. But some of the foods that I eat are vegetables, fruits, beans, lentils, soy, and a lot of olive oil and avocados. I've been eating avocados the whole summer. I really don't, I won't eat it by itself, but I'll put it on a turkey burger or a salad, and I eat it like that. Now, the foods that drain us and make us acidic at times are, the dairy products, carbonated sodas, energy drinks, sugar, alcohol, and some meats. So what I want you to do is go out and try to get this J&W direct pH strip. And you could do it either two ways, the urination way or the saliva way. Yeah. And it'll let you know which levels you are. Yes. I also have, this is really important. Now, these are pH strips for your feet. Like I fought fires for 25 years. And fighting fires, a lot of times we're on our feet are dry. And, water gets in, back up just a little bit. Yeah, right there. And the water gets into our feet. And guess what you do? when we get out of the shower, we want to wipe our feet off in between our toes, because men like me, Mike, and all the rest of us, we do a lot of activities. We fight fires, we protect the citizens, we play sports, and your feet gets bacteria and fungus on your feet. Men, a lot of men, because we just work all the time, especially when we're younger. So what I did was I looked online and I found these pH heat strips. And what they do is when you take them out, they're little small tissue strips. So if this was my foot, all you do is go in a circular position, just like that. And what it does, it puts the pH back into your feet. It'll put it back up to a number 7 or higher, and you won't see any type of, dryness, no bacteria. It takes it right out of your feet. So these 2 things I really highly recommend. You look into it, you go online, you can look it up. And another thing with pH is in our water system. When you want to go to the pools, they got to check the pH level. When you want to go to the hot tub, pH level. The grass, in order for it to stay green, it has to be over 7.0. So we have a lot of things that pH works in your system. So like I said, right now, me and Joetta right around at 6.5, which is good. But if we were a little lower, we'll have to go out and get some alkaline water or get some type of fruits or vegetables or soy. So the levels could come up. Because once you start doing that, again, the right pH levels are needed for good health. And the letter pH stands for potential of hydrogen. So it brings our levels up. So a lot of times we wonder why, the skin is dry. Like I said, fighting fires for all those years, I used to have to, make sure my feet were dry, but now I don't have to worry about it anymore. So take care of yourself, and hopefully your pH levels will be good next week.
Thank you for that information. We give it to you so that when we start the JoTyme Fitness Challenge, you have everything in your repertoire, so there'll be no excuses. Mike, coming back to you with nutrition and conditioning, being a Grand martial art person, you have to have nutrition, and you also have to have had condition. Is there something that you put in your repertoire of foods that's a go-to food when you're working out and recovery?
Absolutely. I carry around a gallon jug of water because I work out a lot, I walk a lot in the mornings. And what I do, because, there are people that say you're supposed to drink a gallon of water every day. Now, that's very challenging for a few people who just aren't water drinkers. So what I did was I got the old school plastic jug of water, and I would write times at the top. So I would write 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 and 10. So I would drink the water, and I would always try to drink the water down 2 hours before, because I know I'm going to slip throughout the day. So I would just drink the water and carry that jug with me. So I would get my water intake, and then I make sure that I try to eat 5 to 6 small meals a day. I'm trying not to eat 2 meals, 2 big meals. I try to eat small meals throughout the day. Now, it's a challenge because you feel like you're overeating, right? You eat at 8 o'clock in the morning, then you eat at 10, then you eat at 12, then you eat at 2, then you eat at 4, and you stop at 6. But what I do is I try to break my meals in half. So I'll take a fruit or a yogurt for the breakfast. My second meal, if I'm going to eat half of a sandwich, then I'll eat the other half at 12 o'clock. So I'll break those meals in half and just keep my metabolism working, and trying to incorporate fruits and vegetables, those things that are healthy.
Yes.
We just told them last week, and that's going to be part of our challenge. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we were telling them to eat every 2 hours. So the fact that you said that, it kind of solidified that what we were saying was also something that you do as well. Mike, we're talking about nutrition and conditioning and how you got in shape. Could you tell us when you started hitting the world scene and when you started really breaking out of the local New Jersey, USA scene, and you became that guy where you would go somewhere and they were like, oh man, Mike Gilliam is here?
Right. Well, a quick story, I hope it doesn't take too long. There was a guy, and this guy in my school named Andre Graham. He was the heavyweight champion of the world. And when I was in college, and I was probably a sophomore in college. And Andre Graham, who was current heavyweight champion of the world in kickboxing, I was running track in college. I was probably weighing about 162 pounds. This guy was like 225 pounds of muscle mass. And he said, Mike, let's spar. And I said, man, I know there must be another Mike in this gym because this guy's not talking about me, right? And so we sparred for 5 rounds. I ended up knocking him down in the 3rd round, and it scared me to death. But I fought him for 5 rounds. He wasn't able to really beat me. And I was like, man, this is a guy who I idolized. Now he went home and told my cousin, he said, man, your cousin is one of the hardest people I've ever fought. And I said, what? And that's when I knew, it gave me the confidence. If I could beat him, then I wasn't afraid of anybody because he was my King Kong. And then I just broke out and I started putting myself out there, traveling around the world, fighting people, looking at what people were doing. And, it was my passion. So I was trying to work out 3 to 4 times a day, because I just love martial arts. So if you find something that you're passionate about, then it doesn't feel like work. It does work. It feels like work at some times, but it's fun.
When you, it's funny, as you're growing up and you look at what you're doing now, we're talking about your business and how it's thriving. You have different studios all over, dojos all over. But did you ever think that you would be able to make a living out of this? And were you making a living out of fighting? Was there money in it? What did you win? Because you have the studios and things now, but when you were fighting, were you a police officer? Is that how you sustained your income, or were you making money on the circuit?
Right. So I was a police officer at the time when I started really going out there and putting myself out there and just opening up a studio. I opened up a studio while I was a law enforcement officer. But at that point, I really didn't have the confidence that people would pay me for my service. It was something that I enjoyed, and I just didn't believe that people would come to me and pay me money for me to teach their children. But I had a love for teaching children, a love for teaching people about health and fitness and wellness. And, in my community, people saw that I was winning all these championships. So they wanted to bring their kids to me. They wanted to train with me. So that business venture, although it was challenging, the hardest part was just not having the proper mentor to teach you about business. So I made all the mistakes of being a first-time business owner. And, one of the things I always tell people is you just got to jump out there on faith, right? Because, we all have fears. We all have things that we can use that say, it prevents us from doing things. Sometimes I get up in the morning, I do at least 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 squats every day. Now, every day my body don't want to do that, but I just tell my body, shut up, we getting on this floor, we're gonna do it anyway, and we make it easy. So I don't do 100 at a time. I'll do 10 sets of 10, or I'll do 5 sets of 20 to make it super simple throughout the day. So I break my workouts that seem like a lot. I break them down into small increments, and it still equals the same. If you're going to go around the block, it don't matter how many steps you take, but eventually if you take enough of them, you're going to get around that block.
Absolutely. So that was a good story. And thanks for sharing that. A lot of times the audience, Mike is such a high caliber athlete, and you have different disciplines. What we're trying to do is, I always say, it's not about being a martial artist. What it's about being is getting fit and having another avenue to work on your fitness. And he definitely is that person. But he happened to go next level. So he has not only been fit over the years, he's been ranked in the world over the years. He has a following over the years. So Mike, when the kids come to your studio and they see all your trophies and the parents come in, do you tell them, sit down and tell them that it's not about getting these big trophies, but we have something else that we want you to do? Or do
Absolutely. I think when I was younger as a martial arts teacher, I think the ego was there. You wanted to make sure you go out there and I wanted to prove that my studio could, compete with everyone else around the world. And I have I've trained the most national champions on the East Coast. But after that, it wasn't about training national champions. It was more so about seeing that little kid come into the studio who couldn't look at you in the eyes, right? They were so shy, so timid. And then you have a breakthrough where that person comes up to you and say, thank you for teaching me martial arts today. And say, wow, I didn't even know this person had a voice. And then you see this person develop confidence through martial arts, or a person who is on medication no longer has to be on medication because of their training.
Yeah.
And I've had so many people who came to me and say, man, martial arts saved my life. I was on diabetic, I was taking medication, and the doctor had given me 5 years to live. And now it's 10 years later, and I'm 50 pounds lighter or 75 pounds lighter. And it's all through martial arts training, that discipline that it teaches, and just every day, just convincing yourself that you are worth it, right? Because one of the things martial arts, it's a selfless thing that you do, but it's also a very selfish thing that you do, because you are doing it so that you can stay healthy, you can live longer. Some of us in the audience have children, and if not grandchildren, and you want to be, your grandchildren and your children want you to be around. So every day I take that sacrifice, not just for me, but for them.
And I know that you have also studied some form of the martial arts.
Yeah, Mike, I remember being maybe 10 or 11, living on Fairmount Avenue North, going to the West Side Boys Club, and KA was over there one day, and my father kept saying, you're gonna go over there and play baseball and blah, blah, blah. And he took us under his wing. So for 2 or 3 years, I studied with him. Then I did Master Kim. Then I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu maybe 3 years ago. I got frozen shoulder, but now it's better, so now I could go back. So a lot of times, like I was watching the Bruce Lee movies back then, and just got hooked on it. But the same thing that happened with us, that took you to the police department. My martial arts stuff took me to the fire department. And I trained so many different people, the same thing. They would look at me and go, how were you telling me that I could be a firefighter? I trained the first female in the state of New Jersey about 9 years ago. So it's hard to do, but when you do it, you feel, like you did it. Like she said, Ty, I can't do it. The vest is too heavy. I'm going up too many stairs. My legs hurt. But 3 months later, she did it.
Right. And I think that that's important. We talk about things. I've never done martial arts, and Mike has shown me something, which is the kickboxing and the boxing part, which I like for a fitness piece. And we'll talk about that in the next session. But Mike, I have a question from Wes. He says, how was your lifelong training in martial arts? How did that benefit you in your areas of life and business?
Okay, very good question. I always attribute everything that I've done towards my training in martial arts. At some point in line, when I was moving up the ranks in my business and career at the police department, and I moved up the ladder, as I became a sergeant in 4 years. I became a lieutenant in 6 years. I became a captain at a police department, which is the second highest rank that you can achieve there. And eventually I became the police director, and I was running the police department. But I moved up really fast. But I always had that discipline that came from the martial arts, that I knew that there were going to be some people who wouldn't give up their social life, right? Some of the guys who were studying for the test they weren't going to discipline themselves and stop partying, stop drinking. They weren't going to commit themselves to the 6 hours or 8 hours a day of reading that book, studying that material to pass the test high enough to get promoted in the first round. But I realized that time that I invested would pay off in the end. So I had the discipline that I learned from martial arts to sit there and set a goal and work my butt off to achieve that goal and just stay focused.
And I think that that's the one thing we talk about, staying focused, which is the acronym for follow one course until it's successful. So you did that, and you've done that in sports and fitness and in business. So if we have any questions, remember to put them in the chat or raise your hand.
And we're going to do our weekly check-in too, because I want to know who has been out there transforming their mind, their body, or their soul in whatever avenue from last Wednesday to today.
Right.
You know, mine was today I drank 4 bottles of water. It was hot, but I drank 4 bottles of water within a 2-hour time. That's the first time I've done that in a long time. Usually I break it up, but you know, and I felt good.
Yes.
So let me know if anybody want to come and tell me right now. I see a
Leslie.
hand up
I see
right
Leslie
here.
So that's Leslie.
Yes.
Welcome back to the show, and thank you for sharing. This is important that you start, even though the fitness challenge is not until September. We moved it back a little while, and I'll tell you why in a minute. It's important that you start sowing those seeds right now. So Leslie, share with us, and thank you for being on the show.
Okay, hello, Tyrone and Joetta. It's absolutely great to be on the show. As always, you're doing a phenomenal job. But I have a question for Mike. It's a little bit of a two-part, a comment and a question. I want to applaud Mike because my 2 goddaughters were his students, and they are champions, like world class. And what he does when it comes to children, I have no idea how he captures their attention, consistency, and discipline. It's one thing to be adults and to come in and say, I've made up my mind, this is what I want to do. But the Muhammad sisters, my best friend, God rest his soul, Hakeem Muhammad, and their mother, Myrna, Amina and her sister were his students and champions of the world, but they were laid back, bashful children who all of a sudden became world-class champions because of Mike. How do you do it?
Well, you know, thank you, Leslie, for that accolades that you gave me. I'm pretty, humble about, the things that I do. I just really truly believe that I'm just expressing my gift that God gave me and my talent that was given from him, because the things I do it out of love. And the Muhammad children, they were known all over the world. No females wanted to fight those girls. They were also weapons champions in weapons and forms. And I just went this weekend to Aaliyah's graduation party because she graduated from college. And
Right.
that's one of the things that, coming from where we came from in Newark, New Jersey, growing up, it's if you can inspire someone. Yes, I can teach a thug how to fight, but if I can give you the confidence to believe in yourself and believe that college is something that you can attain and that you can achieve, and you can just navigate yourself to any goal that you set in life. And I think that, a part of the answer is I develop a community within my school, and I make it, we're all a part of a family, because it takes an entire village to do what? To raise just one child, right? So I'm just a part of that village that we all become a definite inspiration for the next generation of people who are coming behind us.
Yeah, thank you. For now, Leslie, what you did not do was what we actually initially was to tell us what you did preparing you for the fitness challenge. So
I was coming back to that, but I didn't want to take up too much time.
Sure.
Because I do want to tell you, both of you I love dearly. Tyrone, you have been such a, wow, how can I say it? Such an influence in me having to push myself, and I did have to push myself to make a decision based on whether I want to live or die. I have changed with eating habits. I am now eating every maybe 2.5 hours, not all the time, but if I do decide, I eat less at one time. And then I may eat again 2.5 hours later. I start my metabolism beating sooner because I eat in the mornings, whether it's a piece of fruit, like you said, I'm having my water first. So I want to tell you, I am getting ready for that fitness challenge.
Yes.
And I am here to tell you, I'm going to do some damage.
Thank you very much. that, hey, Mike, you know, we talk about this fitness challenge that we're doing, and to the audience, we were going to do it in August, but we found out that many people are going to be traveling. They're traveling and won't be around. So I don't want any excuses as to why you're not there. So in August, you're going to buy your gear, you're going to buy your pH and all the things that we're asking you to get. And then when September comes, it's going to be all hands on deck. And I am going to ask like Master Mike, Grand Master Mike, to be part of this fitness challenge in some way. He has a dojo in Plainfield, New Jersey. And if you're not there, you can reach him via Zoom. That's very important for you to be able to have that contact information, because, you know, it says we do what we do for JoTyme, but believe you, Michael at Maximum Athletics, they do an amazing job over there. It's for everybody. So if you're not in New Jersey, if you can't get there, you can get to him via Zoom, because that's what he does. And here's the information and his different skill sets. And before we go on, because our time is coming to an end, Grand Master Mike, can you tell us why you are Grand Master Mike? What does that mean, Grand Master?
Grand Master, you attain the title of Grand Master when you achieve 7th degree black belt status in Taekwondo. So I've trained in Taekwondo ever since I was 12 years old, and I'm now a 7th degree black belt in Taekwondo, and I'm currently up for testing for my 8th degree black belt. And that rank just, you know, it shows that you've mastered all the techniques that are below that, and you're a school owner, and you're developing other people underneath you in business and helping them to, you know, just pursue their path. Because I have also 3 black belts, well, 4 black belts who were under me that are current school owners too. So I've influenced and encouraged them to go out there and open their own businesses too.
So we're talking about the fitness aspect of it as well. So is Krav Maga better than karate? So what is karate? You're saying karate, Taekwondo, Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it's so much given to our audience. Can you quickly just go over those? And then if they're going to try something, what do you suggest they try for fitness?
Right. So karate is just a Japanese terminology that means empty hand. So that is the Japanese version of their martial art. Taekwondo is empty hand and feet, but it's the Korean version of martial arts. It incorporates a lot of kicking. So when you look at the 2 different things, they both kicking and punching and spinning. And so karate is just from Japan and Okinawa, and the Taekwondo is just the same thing or similar, but it's from Korea. So Krav Maga is an Israeli fighting self-defense system. It's not really a martial art, but it's like a street defense type of thing. And it's for people who may have a job where they have to walk through a dark or dimly lit parking lot, or you may have a female that you're sitting off to college and they have to walk through certain areas to get to this class or come back to their dorm, and they're not gonna, they don't have the time to put 10 years into learning a martial art per se. But Krav Maga, you may go to your first class of Krav Maga and you may be learning how to defend someone who's trying to rob you with a gun pointed to the back of your head. That may be your day 1 of class, right? But it teaches you how to do it in a very simple way and an effective way that works for you, right? And so it's a simple way to learn self-defense. So Krav Maga, if you're interested in the self-defense aspect, that's Krav Maga. You know, karate, like I said, is Japan, and Taekwondo is Korea, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is mostly like grappling. If someone were to grab you, throw you to the ground, how you defend yourself on the ground.
Okay, Mike, what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna just throw a couple of people out, and you just tell me how were they good, bad, or indifferent.
Okay.
Bruce Lee.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. Jim Kelly.
Excellent.
Let me see. I can't say a bad person. Well, a lot of guys now that did that art, they're now movie stars. You know, Jet Li. Remember the guy that was back then, what was this? They said it was what's his name?
Seagal? What is his name?
Not Seagal.
Cigar.
Yeah.
This was
I don't know.
It was It was one of Ip Man.
Oh, Ip Man.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Ip Man was the trainer and teacher for Bruce Lee. So that's more of a Chinese martial art. So
Okay.
Kung Fu is like a Chinese martial art, and it's very effective and fluent. It's good for health. It's good for longevity and flexibility, and it's a softer style of.
That's what I wondered. Like these guys, they go into 20s, 30s, 40s, 70, 80, and they still can do, the moves like in a softer style and flexible. They're still flexible into their late 80s.
Absolutely.
So what I heard you say earlier that Mike is that you started when you were young, you were a little weak person and you were small, and then you started doing those karate, and then you got good, you got your behind beat, and then it made you train harder. And as you trained harder, you got better. You started winning. It took you some years to get to your different degrees of black belt. You started a business, and you had about at least 4 different thriving studios. They all have been 20,000 square foot plus studios. And now I hear you going for your 8th black belt, and you are still doing what you do. And I spoke yesterday to a group of women about doing what you do. You know what you do. So you know that you know this field, and you're not going to keep it to yourself. You're spreading it,
Yes.
your knowledge and your base. And when you go back and see your kids graduating, or they come back and say to you, thank you, Master Mike, for helping me, it must make you feel really good. So as we move forward to your next chapters, what do you see for you, Mike, as an instructor and in life in this field?
Well, I really think just helping the next generation navigate and business and entrepreneurship. So I have a group of young people that work for me at my studio in North Plainfield, and I'm teaching them the things that we didn't learn in school. I'm teaching them how to invest in the stock market. I'm
Right.
teaching them how to keep their credit score good, how to purchase homes and businesses. And so those are the kind of things that I think that I'm going to do, because that was what I lacked. That was given to me, not given to me when I was younger,
Yeah.
because I had all the skills to be a great martial artist, but I knew absolutely nothing about business. I jacked my credit up. I did everything wrong until I lost so much money, and then I figured it out. I just humbled myself, and I went to a person who was making so much money. I didn't even believe that he was making that amount of money
Right.
teaching martial arts. And I just knocked on his door and said, hey man, this book says that you're making $100,000 a month teaching martial arts. Can you show me what you're doing? Because I must be doing everything wrong, because I'm scrambling to keep the lights on, So I had to humble myself, learn business, and that way I can keep the lights on, so I can keep inspiring people, and just keeping people involved in martial arts.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, what's the youngest kids that you train, without them being too fragile or getting hurt and things like that?
Right. So we accept students at our studio at 4 years old, but I'm quite sure, people bring them, they're like, well, they're 3.5 and 3 3/4, right? So, so that 3.5, and I don't know where you get over that. And then they'll come in and say, well, they know left and right. So, so we take them, we're not going to turn the kid away, because at that age, we teach them hand-eye coordination skills, right? And so those type of things are the things that we teach at that skill set, at their learning. But all martial arts that we do, no matter what the name of it is, at its core, you're going to learn self-defense, respect, discipline, courtesy, confidence. Those type of skills are already impacted in all of those martial arts. So I would say to anyone who has a girl or a boy, especially if you have a young man growing up, and there's bullies anywhere. I have a daughter, she's a fantastic dancer, Her mother came to me and told me she was getting bullied at dance school. I couldn't believe it. I was like, they have bullies in dance school? So bullies are everywhere, right? So you're not going to avoid it. And the more you try to hide, the more they seek you out. Because if you're that child that's walking with their shoulders down, looking down, you're the victim. That's the person they look to get.
Yeah.
So we teach people skill sets so that they can walk upright and be confident.
Okay. Now, what's the youngest black belt that you've ever trained?
Well, in Taekwondo, I promoted someone to black belt, but this person, he was 11 years old, but he was one of those people that I think he started when he was like 2.
Yeah.
The kid came in the door. I was like, well, how old's your daughter? She said 4. I said, well, how old's that? This one, he looks so much smaller. He's like, oh, well, he's 3. I was like, don't look 3. But the kid was a genius because he actually learned. And at that point in time, we had to learn 20 different forms that were at least 25 moves or more. And he knew all of them at 10 years old. He taught himself gymnastics from watching the Olympics, but he was gifted. So he tested in the genius status. So the guy was an amazing.
Do you see him now?
Yes.
You still see him now?
No, actually he moved to Maryland, so he's out in Maryland.
Okay.
Well, Mike, you've done a really great job, and the audience, as we said earlier, it's not about you trying to be a Grand Master. That's Mike's forte. He's done a great job for many years. Not only the best in New Jersey, but the best in the world. The best in the world as a police officer, a karate instructor. And he said he got that from karate. He learned about discipline, direction, and focus, and humbling himself. He humbled himself as a youngster when he got beat up, he said, and then he humbled himself in business. So as you go through the rest of this week, I guess if you take from Mike, how are you going to humble yourself to ask for help, or if something did not go your way, fix it, or if something is going your way, to realize that, be thankful, but humble yourself. So that would be the key takeaway that I would think that I got from you, is humble yourself at the different areas. Is there something, Mike, that you want to say in closing to our audience?
Well, I just want to say, guys, you are hooked up with a great team. And I think that, Joetta and Ty, they're just great motivators. And one thing you have to do is believe in yourself, because you have to be your best cheerleader, right? And you gotta be able to tell yourself and speak positivity into yourself, right? When everyone else counts you out and says you can't do anything, you got to be that person that says, no, I don't know who they're talking about, but they're not talking about me, because I challenge myself every day, because I know that I want to still look good, feel good. I want to see my grandkids come over and I want to play with them in the pool. I want to stay as young as I can for as long as I can. And I tell people this in closing. A lot of times people say, well, when I was young, I have a lot of people come in my studio and they say, well, if I was younger, I would try that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Well, if I was younger, I would have done Taekwondo. And I say, well, let me just tell you something. You're as young right now as you're ever going to be, because you can't get any younger. And if you start today, in 10 years, you'll probably be a black belt.
Right.
So if you don't start, then you will never see that accomplishment.
Right.
Oh
I like that. That's right.
That's amazing.
Tyrone, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining the podcast, and so many familiar faces out here. And I know that in the next couple of weeks, when we really get going, people's lives are just going to feel so much better. Like I said, I feel 100% right now from December. I'm doing my pull-ups again. I'm doing my dips. So be careful, Joe. I might have to race you. I don't know.
Put that on. We're going to put that on the air. And if I was you, I bet on me. To my women out there, bet on me, okay? I'm not going to let y'all down. And I just want to say, it's been a joy having you on here, Mike. I've known you for many years. And to see you, we bounce information off of each other business-wise. And we're always trying to get something together. And you're doing a wonderful job in New Jersey and in Florida. I want to wish you well with all of your activities. Again, in the chat, we have information on how you can reach Master Mike, so you can reach him that way. And also, you can find out how to reach us. But the most important thing, as I always say, it doesn't matter what road you take, for what you become along the journey. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking this journey along with us this evening. I want to thank the Currnt for sponsoring 4 segments. We've had sponsors for several months now that sponsors 4 segments because they believe in what we're doing and they believe in us helping you. So please get ready for this challenge. Have a great rest of the week. And if you have any questions, please email us at JoTymeFitness@gmail.com. I don't know what Tyrone is doing, Mike. He's putting on some gloves. I am not using that as a challenge, so don't pay him any attention. He's just putting on to show people that he has some gloves. That part of
Mike, I got some stuff in my bag too, Mike. So y'all see what that say.
Mike, continue to work hard. Don't worry about him. Guys that are trying to get you out there to really get down with the get down. So with that being said, thank everyone for being part of the show. We appreciate you. And at the Be Extraordinary podcast, we want you to be extraordinary. Why? Because you are. And thank you.
Good night.